First, I'd like to have everyone please stand if you can as we bring in the honor guard to post the colors. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Father Charles to please come up and give us the invocation.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the protocol. I'm going to ask you to be seated. Because if you know my reputation, I talk for an hour. It is my honor and privilege to be with all of you, but on behalf of Stephen James Connor, the Director of the Central Hampshire Veteran Services, and all the dignitaries that are here, so I'm going to recognize a few of them. Dan Carrier, Step Representative. Going down number 3. The Town of Hadley Board of Selectmen. Thank you for your presence. Also to Nikki LaCroix, who's the Director of the Senior Citizen here, for hosting it for today, because it's a very special event. To American Legion Post 271, thank you for your presence. To Carolyn Brennan, the Town Administrator here of Hadley. Also to Brian Roulette, who is the commander of the Purple Heart, so he'll be making his presentation. And Joyce Chungala, who most certainly helped out. I didn't miss anybody, did I? Okay, did I get in trouble? I'd like to recognize Helen Bai, who was 100. And all of the veterans that we honor today, because that's why we're here. So all of you are important. So all the residents from town of Hadley, all the dignitaries that are here, again, I welcome you on behalf of all of the board and for all those that will make speeches later on. I apologize if I'm a little out of breath. I just ran back from Ludlow. I had a funeral this morning, so you know how those things go. Today is a very special day because August the 7th celebrates, if you will, National Purple Heart Day, and offers Americans a special opportunity to say thank you to the 2 million brave men and women who fought for our nation's freedom and bear the physical scars of war. The National Purple Heart Honor Mission hosts a national tribute ceremony every August the 7th. So we're gathered here in Hadley to honor our Purple Heart recipients, but be mindful again, today is the day it was established. The event offers recipients a chance to share personal narratives about the true cost of freedom and what it takes to protect our great nation. What a great honor for our town of Hadley to be recognized as a Purple Heart community. Some present, others gone, but none are forgotten. Entering and leaving Hadley, you'll be welcomed by a sign that says, "This is a Purple Heart community." What an honor and privilege to honor them. And so in prayer, wounded in action, fighting on the front lines, now walking through the battlefield of everyday life, covered with scars that no one else can see. And though the war is over, a new enemy won't set them free. Trying to find a way to leave their past behind and forget the memories that live in their minds. They paid a price that most will never have to pay, and they carry the cost with them every single day. Purple Hearts beat to the rhythm of red, white, and blue. The Purple Hearts' freedom forever rings true. To Purple Hearts, we owe a debt of gratitude, for Purple Hearts sacrificed it all for me and for you. God bless all of our veterans. God bless the town of Hadley. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I hope it wasn't too long.
And now I'd like to have the performing of our national anthem with Eddie Foreman and Bob Sawicki. Please stand.
Please sing.
Wonderful rendition. Thank you very much. And I'm sure everybody heard it, right? I purposely didn't sing because I knew the microphones were here. That would have spoiled it all, so. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Oh, there was one more official duty we have. I apologize. I'm going to ask you all to stand again because we have to do the Pledge of Allegiance. My apologies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wonderful. You may be seated. Thank you, everyone. I would now like to ask Carolyn Brennan, the town administrator, here to say a few words. Welcome, everyone here.
Thank you. On behalf of the Select Board, who I'm going to introduce in a few minutes, I want to thank all of you for being here for this really special occasion. It's really Hadley's an opportunity to recognize the town's commitment to show honor and appreciation to the veterans of Hadley, the individuals who supported those veterans, and those that are recipients of the Honorable Purple Heart Award. I want to especially thank Representative Dan Carey for joining us. Dan, you're one of the most punctual representatives I've worked with. Senator Comerford did apologize. She was not able to attend. And I'd also like to recognize Omar Gomez, who's a candidate to fill the vacancy that's going to be when Dan leaves. I will be watching the clock. I'm looking forward to working with you. I also, at this time, want to recognize our select board members. David Phil and Randy Iser were not able to attend, but Molly, if you can just wave, everybody knows. Jeremy, Nevin Smith, and also Amy's not here, so thank you. Also here is former select board member Joyce Chunglo. She will be speaking shortly, I just told her. And we are so grateful, really, that this is happening now because of Joyce. It was Joyce's last thing that she wanted to do before she left the select board. And it was to have this declaration for August 7th to be this special event, as well as to make Hadley a Purple Heart community. So you will see in the next week or two that you will see the Purple Heart signs. We'll have about 9 or 10. Any street that's entering into Hadley that will show that Hadley is a Purple Heart community. So thank you, Joyce. We appreciate that. So Brian Roulette is going to explain in more detail, it's his passion of what the Purple Heart means. But I just wanted to just lead into this, that, you know, as I did my research to learn more about how special the significance of this award is, what was so highlighted throughout all the literature was it has a lot of different meanings. A service member who has been awarded the Purple Heart has made a great sacrifice or paid the ultimate price while serving in the line of duty. Recognition of sacrifice and heroism. The Purple Heart has served a recognition of sacrifice and heroism by those in the U.S. military since its origins during the Revolutionary War. Over 1.8 million Purple Heart medals have been awarded to U.S. service members since 1782. But today, we also want to take special recognition for those individuals who were or are recipients of this special recognition, as well as the families and those individuals that may not have served actively but support that as well. So thank you. So Brian, can you come up and explain more? Oh, no, I did. What? Oh, I didn't follow directions.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Oh,
Can I have Representative Kerry please come up and say a few words?
I'm so punctual. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you all for the invitation to join you and for being here today to recognize this important day for the town of Hadley. I'm Dan Carey. I'm the state representative for the 2nd Hampshire District. I represent Hadley, South Hadley, East Hampton, and half of Granby. And it's been my honor since I was elected in 2018 to represent Hadley in the Massachusetts legislature. And as you heard, I'm not running for re-election. So I want to make sure you know the name Omar Gomez. He's sitting right there in the 4th row. He's the East Hampton City Council president, and he's running unopposed. So there's your new state rep. Between now and January 1st, call either of us. After January 1st, just call him. But it really is an honor to be here and to share with Omar and everyone how special of a place Hadley is. It really is remarkable. Something I've told Brian a million times, we need to make sure we're celebrating and remembering our veterans 365 days a year, not just Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And while you hope every community will do that, I know Hadley does that. It wasn't long ago we were gathered at the Young Men's Club to get a up-close look at all the banners, thanks to Jerry Devine and other members of his committee, and to celebrate folks that were going to be lining the streets. And those banners are up. We saw them during the Memorial Day parade, but we see them the whole length of the time that they're up there, so that we remember and thank our veterans. I'm not a veteran. I've got veterans in my family. Some of my friends are veterans. I'm a member of the Sons of the American Legion in East Hampton. So I'm always humbled to speak at a veterans event because I know there's not enough we can do for our veterans. In the legislature, we try to continually support our veterans. At the Memorial Day event, I told Brian the House of Representatives had passed the HEROES Act, an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members. And we were going to push the Senate and the governor to get it done. And I'm proud to say the governor just signed that in the last few days. And so there's a new law on the books that's going to make more services available and more benefits readily available for our veterans across the state, and especially today for our disabled veterans. Yeah. So I want to thank the town of Hadley for doing this. So somebody said to me, what's it mean? is it just a sign on the side of the road? And I said, it is a sign on the side of the road, but it's not just a sign on the side of the road. You see them all over Western Mass. You see them all over the state, and they mean something. People driving through Hadley, driving into town will know this is a town that values its veterans and thinks about them 365 days a year, as they should. There's no question we all know a veteran. But what surprises people, I think, is we probably also all know a Purple Heart recipient. The fact that this was started by George Washington and over 2 million have been given out. Our veterans, our Purple Heart recipients are so humble. They're not bragging about it to us. But there's folks in our neighborhoods, folks in our families, in our friend groups that are Purple Heart recipients. I was talking with a close friend of mine recently, and I noticed he had a tattoo of a broken $50. And I said, what is that? He said, that's how my grandfather got his Purple Heart. That's the $50 that was in his pocket that saved his life when the bullet hit the coin. And so I got this tattoo to remember my grandfather and to remember his service. And there's stories like that in all of us and in all of our neighborhoods, families and friend groups. So please share those stories. Talk with your friends and family about how important those signs are and this day is. Congratulations, Hadley. Thank you.
Very well said, thank you. In that vein, I was just at the folks that come here on the second Wednesday, the veterans who will come to the lunch. It also happens in East Hampton on the first Wednesday of the month, and I was just there before I came here, and we talked a little bit about the Purple Heart, and one guy said, can we thank the two guys that are sitting here? They're Purple Heart recipients. And I said, well, of course, and the two stood up, and they got a round of applause. But it reminded me, we don't know. You know, you're not, if you're wearing the shirt because official duty, we know Brian is a member of the Purple Heart Order. But most people, we won't know it. And again, there's less and less veterans. They're not all wearing hats. They're not wearing their Purple Heart. So the whole community needs to always remember them and think about them, even if they don't know specifically who they are. But when we do, it's a great honor to thank them for their service. And speaking of Brian, I'd like Brian Willett, Commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, to please give us a rundown on all.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's an honor to be here in Hadley. And Dan, I am going to still call you. You may not help me anymore, but I'm still going to call you. And I will be calling you. Because Dan's done more for us in this area. We've had great representatives in this area. Aaron Vega got through the first state park bill that allows Purple Heart recipients to park in state parks without a fee. And we're currently working on a second bill that Dan's been partnering with me on for 3 years now, and we'll hit you up on a 4th year next year to allow us to get a second license plate to make those parks more accessible. Outdoors, the great outdoors, very beneficial to PTSD treatment, and that was the main purpose of that bill, to give better access to those parks. First of all, to Steve, thank you for doing this, to the select board. Before I even continue, I'm going to give something to you four select board members, if I may. It's a Purple Heart supporter pin that we give at ceremony. You want to pass it? You want to use this? Steve's going to do the honors. And luckily there's 4 of them here. So the Purple Heart was established on August 7, 1782 by General George Washington at his headquarters in Newburgh, New York. And it was kind of a thing of necessity. The British had already surrendered at this point at Yorktown, and the Continental Army was in cantonment in the Newburgh, New York area. And with the end of the fighting, the active fighting, the Continental Congress did something which set a precedent for Congress for the rest of the 250 years since. When they didn't need the military, they cut the funding immediately. No promotions, no training, no movement, no nothing. So General Washington, who wanted to, valor and merit was awarded by promotion. And with promotion meant a raise. So a sergeant might become a lieutenant, or something like that, but it would mean more money in his paycheck. General Washington could not even do that because there was no money for increased promotions. So in his desire to honor all of his soldiers, he created the Badge of Military Merit, made of purple cloth with the word merit sewn upon it, and it was meant to be a permanent decoration by the Army. It was awarded to 3 individuals, and as I said, it was to be permanent, but at the end of the war, no other medals or no other badges of merit were awarded. And the medal and the badge had been forgotten about in the previous, in the wars that followed. And as the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth approached, starting in the late 20s, the Army wanted to figure out a way to honor our first commander-in-chief on the bicentennial of his birth. And they began to figure out different ways. They were working in conjunction with Fort Ticonderoga and other historical groups. How could we best honor Washington and his birth year? And finally, they happened upon this Badge of Military Merit, the records which had been lost for the previous 150 years or more. So at this time, General Douglas MacArthur was the Army Chief of Staff. He commissioned a design person to redesign the medal for modern use. MacArthur, wanting to honor his soldiers for being wounded in World War I, which he was one of them, the modern Purple Heart that we know was created. Made it purple, cut in the shape of a heart, the word merit engraved on the back, and the bust of General George Washington on the front in honor to him. And so that first Purple Heart, which we know as Purple Heart 001, was awarded on February 22nd, 1932 to Douglas MacArthur. And he also received a second medal, Purple Heart for wounds received in action. So, and from that time, since that 1932 medal, as mentioned, over 1.8 million Americans have received that medal. Nearly a million of them in World War II. Another 250,000 in the Korean War, 300,000 during the Vietnam War, and in my war, over 55,000 Purple Hearts awarded. So the reason I became involved in this really was to honor the veterans who came before me. I can tell you from our veterans in our time, the folks have bent over backwards thanking us for our service. They couldn't think up anything else to thank us for our service. They've thought of everything. They keep thinking of ways to thank us. But there was a generation just before us, and it was a generation that taught me how to be a soldier, our Vietnam veterans, who did not receive that same welcome home. And that's something I was aware of as a young soldier in 1983, as a private. All my sergeants were Vietnam veterans. All my platoon sergeants, some of our company commanders were still Vietnam veterans, but every single sergeant major, every single battalion commander. And they really did taught us, they taught us a lot about how to be a soldier and a lot about life. Some of that advice I wish I hadn't taken, but well, I'll always be, I always love them for that advice. I had fun just the same. At this time, I want to recognize a veteran in this room, Bob O'Neill, who is a combat medic, wore the Bronze Star of Valor like my son, and a Purple Heart recipient like my son too, who was also wounded in Afghanistan. I'd like to recognize Bob. Did Bob come forward? Did Bob come up for a minute? I got something for you, Bob. Like all humble veterans, he does not want to come up here. But on my request, he's coming up. Bob, I have this coin. I'd like to present you on behalf of the military department. Thanks for your service. Welcome home to Are there any other Purple Heart recipients in the room? Okay, so one more back there. Vietnam War? Yes. Thank you for your service. So I want to mention the post 9/11 generation, which my son was part of, my daughter was part of. I'm blessed to have two patriotic kids. My daughter actually saw combat before me or my son did in 2009, and I went to Afghanistan in 2010. I was wounded in September of that year. And as it happened, this is a kind of a made-for-TV movie. My son is coming to Afghanistan, and his little 40-man platoon is coming to my camp. And so I got to greet him at Bagram Airfield as he came off the plane. And he said, "Hey, Dad." And it's like kindergarten, first day of kindergarten, except you're in a combat zone and your son's going off to war. It's the craziest thing. So then I met up with him at the camp. They arranged for him to pin the Purple Heart on me. And the 101st did a big story. We were on page 3 of Stars and Stripes. Decorating Dad was the caption. And a big story, father cautioned son not to earn a Purple Heart like he did. My son was, in fact, wounded 7 months later by a hand grenade in Camp Phoenix in Kabul. And he also earned a Bronze Star of Valor. And I just want to let you know that patriotism in this country is not dead. The whole generation, which we thought were going to be addicted to their video games and mom's couch and all that stuff, stood up after 9/11, got the job done, and we can be proud. And we know if it happens again, the next generation will also serve. So with that, I thank you, and I thank the town of Hadley for doing this. Dan, again, you had a great run. Please come back. Please return to the legislature. We can use you again. And I appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you.
Wonderful job. And speaking of somebody who probably doesn't want to stand up, but she has to because we're making her, is former Board of Selectmen member Joyce Chungalo, who's the reason why we're having this today.
Actually, too much credit has been given to me for this. I want to recognize Patricia Paczynski sitting back there. I know you probably don't want me to do it, Patricia, but you know what? You're the one that asked me to get this done and to have it become part of Hadley, and you were the drive for me to do it. So I appreciate you asking me. Thank you. When you live in Hadley and you have such great community members and people that live here that think about other things other than themselves and other things that go on, it's nice that they approach a select person and ask them to do something, and we're happy we were able to get that done. So thank you for everybody for being here. Dan, select board, and Carolyn should have gave me better warning that I was going to do this, but it's been 3 months. I'm out of practice. But anyway, let me read. Today is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Town of Hadley by the Select Board, Purple Heart Town Proclamation, 2024. Whereas the people of the town of Hadley, Massachusetts have great admiration and utmost gratitude for the men and women who selflessly served their country and this community in the armed forces. Whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been
Posthumously.
that's it, okay, I'll let him go with that. Awarded, yeah, I'm killing it like I do liaison, but anyway, awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas the citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifice of being wounded by hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn upon it, on August 7th, 1782, in Newburgh, New York, by General George Washington, then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932, by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. And whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the Hadley Select Board, hereby proclaim the town of Hadley, Massachusetts, as a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice of those from our Commonwealth community who were awarded the Purple Heart while serving in the nation wars. Also, be it proclaimed that Hadley, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag as well as other public expressions of recognition and appreciation of our Purple Heart recipients, given the 15th day of May in the year of 2024. And it's signed by the Select Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Joyce and I go way back. When I was a little kid, I used to have to call my mother to figure out where my socks were. And she was a registered nurse at the second floor of Cooley Dickinson, and she was the charge nurse. She was in charge at home, too. But she had a hard time keeping track of my socks. But yes, she was. And she loved you, so that's great. Enough of that. Okay. Before we wrap up with the benediction, I would ask everybody to please stand. I've asked our musical folks to please do us one more, which is an opportunity for us to really take a moment and remember those who served, those who received the Purple Heart. So if you please stand while we play taps. Father Charles.
You can sit again. I probably won't be asked to come back. Steve, I want to thank you very, very much for being the MC. I want to thank all of those that spoke. Dan, I'm going to miss you. Omar, I'll welcome you. But every one of you is very, very important because whether you're in politics or government, you lead the town beautifully. You know, I had the privilege of growing up here in Hadley, November 1st, 1947, so now you know how old I am. But anyway, Hadley was always a special town. I grew up on East Street. My grandparents came from Poland. We had nothing, but you know, you grew up. Where the library was Hooker School, and that's where I started my education. And I started from the ground level up, because kindergarten was down in the basement. But anyway, I think back how the memories really hit all of us. So for all of us that grew up here in Hadley, it's a great town, great spirit, and I'm happy to be part of it. Even though my priesthood had taken me from different assignments in different towns, from Hadley to Ludlow, then to Ware for many years, to Our Lady of Sacred Heart in Boston Road in Springfield, and finally ending up in Granby. Then I finally retired, and I thought retirement meant like you don't do nothing. It's wrong. You got to keep active. So the seniors here, thank you for the activities that you do, because I know how important it is. Because when you get to be a certain age, you know how it is. So, but again, I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I'm just going to recognize a few people. We recognize a lot of to our cable. Thank you very much for always videoing, because it's history, and this is a historical moment, so thank you. He was in Granby. He did my retirement mass, which lasted 4 hours. He goes, Father, you're retiring, cut it down. But I think we have it on video somewhere, or I have a copy. I want to thank Ed Foreman, because was it your father that got the Purple Heart? Your uncle? Your uncle, yeah. Thank you very much. Pardon?
My namesake.
Namesake, yes. Bob Sawicki, thank you very, very much. And of course I want to thank the beautiful Carol, the wife of Ed. I thought you were going to do some polka music, but maybe after we're all done, so. But great, great people. One person I want to just acknowledge, if I can, has become a good friend, he keeps tabs on me, and he knows how to get a hold of me when I travel. Jerry Devine. So Jerry, thank you very, very much, because he was the one that found me. I don't know how he found me. It wasn't underneath a rock. I was covering something, but he knows. If you need to get a hold of me, because I'm here, there, and everywhere. And I never take my cell phone with me, because if I'm at Mass and it goes off, I can't answer it, so you know. But thank you very, very much. And thank you for the glass of water, by the way. And it was water, by the way. Heavenly Father, first of all, can we have all our veterans just stand up for one moment that are here? Thank you very much. And you are the reason that we have what we have. We have a beautiful America because so many wars, so many battles, and we pray especially for those that keep serving our country. I'm sorry, I'm just going on more. If you
As
want
long
some-
as it's not 4 hours.
Okay, if you want some water. May 18th, we all gathered at the Young Men's Club. Wasn't that a beautiful moment? And I can remember Jerry coming to me and saying, no, we're going to be doing banners. Aren't they beautiful to recognize all of veterans? That all those in that committee, you know, I wouldn't have been aware of it. So all those that were in the committee that made it happen. And when we got up there, that pavilion was loaded with people. It was so patriotic. It was so uplifting. And as we looked at the banners, right, and I have two banners, one of my father, of course, one of my Uncle Ed. So thank you, the committee, because that's where it began. And the following week, for Memorial Day, as we gathered to celebrate Memorial Day, the banners were up. So as the parade took place, how fast it was. The banners being done, the veterans being recognized, and Memorial Day with the parade, that as everybody came, and the parade went down the main road, we witnessed again that great event. So it is a blessing and honor to know people like you that have served our country and who are defending all things that matter. And there are three things that matter, and may you always remember this: faith, family, and freedom. God bless America, and God bless all of you. And God bless the spread that we're going to about receive, those prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Charles. And thank you, Dan, for finding him. Oh, Jerry, I'm sorry. Oh, it's been a long day already. Yeah, we have the flag, but before we do that, I'm going to ask our American Legion, Post 271, to go ahead and retire the colors. Thank you, everyone.